Okay, this week's free stock pick, BSDM. Now, normally I don't necessarily trade or call stocks like this, but August is so low volume. Um, I'm kind of scraping for ideas as far as finding stocks, on the daily chart that are interesting for tomorrow. Most of what we're doing is on an intraday basis, and really this week we're not doing much. Next week we won't do much, I don't think, because volume is so light. I'm really looking forward to September. This is if you're new to trading, this is the worst time. August the worst month, and I'd say late August the worst time of the worst month to trade. So there's just no volume. Having said that, this week's free pick BSDM, I'm going to share with you why. Okay, first of all, this thing has basically no volume back here. It got some FDA approval or something, big news last week, and a huge move. What's the volume there? 27 million shares all of a sudden, and all the way up to 358. And as typical, as I can't talk, as is typical of a low price stock like this that makes that kind of crazy move, of course, it's going to come back down. You've now got 3 red days in a row. They kind of look like stair steps. And now let me switch to 15-minute candles. Kind of zoom in a little bit there. Here you can see the gap from last week. I'll zoom in a little bit more now. You notice since the high of the gap up today, gap up day, excuse me, you can see the opening 15-minute candle the day after, it never broke that high. The day after that, this was the opening 15-minute candle. It never broke that high the rest of the day. And then today, Monday's opening 15-minute candle, it never broke that either, okay? If BSDM can break its early high one of these days, I think we'll get a nice second wave of buyers, okay? You'll get that kind of, okay, maybe that story's for real, hey, I want in. It's running again. You get that kind of secondary wave if things work out right, if it can trade in a narrow range for the first 15 minutes or so, and then break its early high. Having said that, let's go back to the 15s. We were watching it today, and I actually nibbled on some today. I did take some today as a swing trade. I trade a couple different accounts. I have a day trading account and a swing trading account, and I did buy some BSDM today for a swing trade. But tomorrow we'll also be on watch as a day trade, and here's why. As I just said, if it breaks its early high one of these days, certainly could get a nice second wave. Today, the high was $2.30. It had a late morning bounce to 220. We actually grabbed some here for an attempt at a trade at 214. I told everybody if it gets up through 220, I think there's a great chance it gets through 230, the high of the day. And when this starts printing new highs, I think we get a nice measured move to the upside. So we had what we call stacked catalysts here, but it took 15-30 minutes to just go up a couple pennies, and this is August trading and right back down to break even. Good time to kill the trade. Having said that, this does look, we've got a few catalysts. So I've got it on bounce watch tomorrow in our chat room, meaning if it puts in an early 15-minute candle with a decent, fairly narrow range and trades sideways for a while and then breaks that early high, I want to be a buyer. All right. Also, there's a couple ways I'm going to look at that. So I'm going to treat it as a bounce play. In other words, if it breaks its 15-minute high, only if it's got a fairly narrow range. But another way I'm going to play it is if it opens somewhere around where it closed today. Okay, open maybe between 2 and 210. You notice it had an afternoon rally to 217. There's that late morning rally from today to 220, and there's yesterday's high, $2.30. So another way I'm going to play this is if it doesn't trigger in the first 5 minutes, by trigger I mean hit 218. Let me bring my drawing tool up here. 218 would be a break of this afternoon's little small rally. You've also got another catalyst of 221, a break of the morning rally, and 231 certainly could get it going as well. So you can kind of see the descending line there. So what I'm going to do is, if it trades between 2 and 210 or somewhere around there for the first, at least the first 5 minutes, I'll probably nibble on some tomorrow at 218 if it gets there. Okay, and this is again assuming an open fairly near where it closed. Okay, so here's the catalyst: 218. I think that can get us through 220, and I think that if we get over 220, I think we get through 230. Doesn't sound like much, but we get through 230. Who knows? Anything can happen on a stock that made a move like this. It's a fairly low float stock too, so if it can break those catalysts, 218, 221, 231, if it can start knocking those down, we may get a really nice measured move. If it starts knocking those down and I get in at around 218, and it does end up taking out this 230 mark, at that point we get some momentum to the upside. I'm certainly going to start scaling out like we teach. But anyway, not a lot to watch tomorrow. I went through a ton of charts tonight, and nothing really looks that good. So that's why I'm going to watch this BSDM because of this crazy move the other day. This does have a chance. To give a nice percentage move in our favor. So just to quickly recap, a bounce play. It could open at $1.60 tomorrow or $1.50, in which case, the 218, 221, 231 catalysts mean nothing. Keep that in mind. This is all. These triggers are potential catalysts are based on a fairly normal open. Now let's just say it opens at $1.80 tomorrow. I can't cover every possible scenario in a wrap-up or in a video the night before, but we will. We'll call everything live in our chat room as we always do. So if you're already a member and you're in chat, we'll call it as we see it forming. But I do try to cover in these free pick ideas in these scenarios. I do try to cover every possible or a lot of possible scenarios. So let's just say it opens at $1.80. In other words, a big gap down, but then trades in a narrow range for 15 minutes. I would still buy a break of that early high. Anytime the market's been open and a stock like this has been trading for 15 minutes or 20 minutes in a narrow range and then breaks that early high, people start to see BSDM printing new highs on the new highs and lows ticker. There's a good chance we get a second wave of buyers. Believe me, a lot of people saw this, 27 million shares last week on that one day. So that's the best I can do the night before. Again, we'll call this live in our chat room if you're a member. And we will follow up with a video tomorrow night to show you if and how we traded BSDM, kind of an after-the-fact teaching tool on our intraday thinking if you're not a member. So we try to do follow-up videos every time we send out a free pick. That's about all I can say about it. I'll quit babbling here and look for a video tomorrow night to follow up on whether we traded BSDM or not and how we traded it. Have a great night, and we'll talk to you tomorrow night.